So we're going to be talking about what the current AI tech is right now, and what kind of new, super big ethical questions that we've literally never needed to consider before as humans. And so today is going to be kind of talking a little bit about what are some of these first steps you need to take as an organization to start adopting generative AI outside of just experimenting a little bit to, okay, let's start to like systematize this and look for use cases. How do you start that process to change the culture within the organization to use these? And every organization that's thinking about using AI for at a bigger scale needs to have some sort of policy and guidance to their staff about, where is it okay? Where should you set boundaries? Where are we experimenting? How do you get approval? Like very basic logistic questions. And to do that, you need to have understanding of what the technology is so you can understand where to start and then kind of where it's headed. So part of today is going to be just showing like what is currently available so you can make some decisions around that. Because right now we are literally living through the transition between the before the AI times to the after the AI times. And most folks that I talk to are still taking their first steps. They're using AI for helping write emails, some really, kind of easy use, simple cases, but the technology just continues to accelerate. And the more I use it, the more I realize that the world is fundamentally going to change with this technology, similar to other paradigm shifting technologies that we've lived through. And so for all of human history, language was exclusive to humans. Every time you had a conversation, a phone call, a text message, it was intrinsically a human-to-human communication. And we use language to share information, to share how we feel, to share our ideas, share culture, and even deeper than that, like we use I'm having an internal experience inside of my body, and I'm existing in here, and I'm trying to use my language to tell you what it's like, my experience is like, and so that you can also kind of like, so I can be seen, right? That I can share my experience, and we're both doing that at each other to try to feel connection. And what's wild is that just changed. For the first time, computers have injected themselves into the system that we use to build our society. And we use our language to build our society. We're influenced by language, which is why marketers exist, which is why copywriting exists. And so AI will influence our society. Is this for the better? Is this for worse? It's likely both, right? And so we're all responsible for the ethical and responsible adoption of AI. I don't think it's going to happen on accident. I think that we need to be intentional about where we set boundaries, where we say yes to this technology. We need to be constantly asking a lot of questions about privacy and data. And like one of my biggest fears with AI is that we will literally, as a species, lose our ability to critically think. In the same way that we've kind of lost our ability to read maps because we use GPS. Like, if AI is writing everything for us, will we lose the ability to write? If AI is helping us make decisions, are we going to lose our ability to think for ourselves and make a decision without AI? Like, that's what's at stake, which is why we're having this discussion. Because coming to this group, learning about AI puts you at the leading edge, and we are absolutely in uncharted territory. There's no playbook. There's no set thing about how you adopt AI in your life and how you adopt AI into your organization. You're at the leading edge of this technology. Someone said something recently, it was an executive director, and I thought it was insightful. They said, we want to be at the leading edge, but we don't want to be at the bleeding edge, right? You want to be able to use it for your benefit, but you don't want to get harmed by it. And so understanding what it is and where the risk is an important part of that. And because you're at the leading edge, there's no playbook. There's no set way. And if you waited a couple of years and said, I'm just going to like pause on AI, it's too scary, I don't want it right now, there will be more kind of infrastructure and training about like, this is the way it's done. It'll get easier in the future. Just like it's easier now to create a website than it was in 1998, Right now, it's literally you can just like tell AI to do it. So my goal is to be your guide in this process, but you will ultimately have to use your judgment, and you'll have to make judgment calls over and over and over again. So today's session is going to be about demoing some of the latest technology that's available. This technology is changing really rapidly. I'm thinking about doing this either once a month or maybe the first Wednesday of every other month because it's changing that fast. So as I see new tools and as new things come out, just to be able to keep you up to date. We're going to talk about some like brand new, big, huge ethical questions that have never needed to be considered before. We're going to talk about some practical questions about adopting AI. And then if we get to it, we'll have some like, how do you actually do it? How do you actually adopt AI in your organization? And so what is the current technology? What can it do today? And so I'm going to show you some really advanced demonstrations, but know that wherever you're at on your AI journey, what I'm showing you today is probably not your starting point, right? When you're thinking about AI, there's a couple things you want to start with. You want to start with simple, low-risk tasks that have high value for you, and there's a lot of those. So a low risk, something that has high risk would be using AI to interact with all of your donors and supporters, right? That could ruin your reputation with those people in your relationships. Like that's high risk and not simple. What's a simple, low risk, high value task? Like an example of that might be for all meetings that you have inside your organization, we're going to use AI to help make an agenda. New policy, right? All meetings have agendas. They're really easy to make because you just use an AI to help. You make them 5 minutes before the meeting, and the efficiency of your meetings go way up. Everybody's on page with what they're doing. The decisions are all mapped out. Like you're going to have a better meeting, and that's simple, low risk, high value. But you need to know about these new technologies because you need to make strategy decisions, especially if you're at the leadership level, about AI, and it's going to be impossible to make informed decisions without knowledge, right? Without the knowledge about what AI can do today, about where is this technology going. And so buckle up because we're going to start some demonstrations and they're going to be intense. All you have to do to create an image is to say, create an image for me. That will prompt it to make an image and then say exactly what you want. And the image capabilities have radically improved in the last like month or so. So let's do one. And what I want to show you here, what's changed is two things. One is how good the text has gotten. Before, text was really, really wonky. And then the second thing I want to show you is how specific it gets the details. So I'm just going to like improv for a second, and I'll just make it up as I go. You're going to create an image for me, and this is going to be an image that's going to go on a flyer for a nonprofit gala that supports nature conservation. It's going to be at the botanical gardens, so I want the image to be very jungle themed, lots of plants. I want to be inside an atrium, and I want there to be round tables full of donors. There should be a stage on the right side of the picture with 3 people on stage with a screen in the background that says, "Welcome to the gala." And there should be a buffet on the left side. And can you like add a bird somewhere? Bird flying through the scene, but not like a really big bird, but just kind of like a subtle bird in the background. If I tried this type of prompt with all these details a month ago, it would have basically ignored half of them and I would have gotten what I got. But oftentimes when you're making images, or when you used to be, it was really frustrating because you would like tell it a bunch of stuff and it would get it wrong. And then you would tell it more stuff and it would like maybe get the new stuff, but then drop the old stuff. And you just like ended up, it always felt like you were just kind of like spinning your wheels in trying to like get it right. And you ultimately spent more time to create something that wasn't even that useful. And it definitely didn't match brands like color. So do you want to put that on externally facing stuff? So mostly I was kind of like, don't use the AI image generation, especially for external communications, maybe for an internal slide or something like that. And that just changed. It just got way more useful. So we'll see how many of those details it got right um, as it builds out here. It does take a little bit longer now, but that's no problem. So it got the screen, got the 3 people on the stage, round tables, buffet table. I think the buffet table was supposed to be on the right. Maybe the screen was supposed to be on the right. There should be a stage on the right side. So it basically got all the details right. So it got a lot better. So we created images. Let's talk about digital twins. So digital twin is the idea of having like a digital avatar or someone that's replicating you. Just a note, none of these people on the screen, they're not real. These are digital people.
Customer feedback from last month.
Welcome everyone to our product demo.
What's one small step you could take this week towards your goal?
It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed.
Today, we're rolling out our new ticketing system.
Could you walk me through a challenging project you've managed and how you approached it?
Our AI-powered CRM could streamline your sales process.
Let's troubleshoot this together. Can you tell me what error message you're seeing?
Estamos encantados de presentar nuestra nueva línea de productos ecológicos.
Yeah, I like literally have chills, right? This exists. This is HeyGen. This is current technology that's available. And some things you might think like, oh, really easy, right? Or like use cases that make sense, like internal training videos. You can just actually write the script, or now you would probably use AI to write the script. And then you could just do like an SOP generator for like, hey, here's an internal training module for this exact thing. We seem to like to watch humans. I don't know if people are going to like reject this or accept this technology. So that's like more benign, right? Internal training videos, but they're also able to like join meetings, and then you can either make them look like you, or you can like pick like a generic avatar, so you can replicate yourself and send that to a virtual meeting. I remember thinking really early on in AI that like, oh, because I'm at the leading edge of this technology, I will be one of the first people to have a digital twin of myself. And already I have friends, and I'm starting to question like, is this like a real person? Like, we just assume now because it was impossible before, but more and more you'll start to question. And I've started to get phone calls from people or from bots basically, and there's just enough nuance where I'm like, I start to ask them if they're bots, and they usually hang up. So I've gotten like maybe 5 spam calls that are just straight up AI generated bots, and they're asking questions, and they'll answer questions, but if you ask certain questions, then they hang up. So there must be some sort of pathing rules of like, if they ask if it's AI, they hang up. That's been my experience. So that technology exists. We'll talk a little bit more about this as well. So this is a demo that just came across my radar a couple days ago. I was speaking with another nonprofit consultant friend that I have doing AI work in Australia. And she said, oh, have you checked out Canva's new AI like data visualization tools? And I was like, no. She's like, oh, let me show you a demo. So now I'm about to show you a demo. This is wild. So a lot of you are very familiar with Canva. Canva's pretty at the leading edge of this technology. So once you go to Canva, you go to Canva AI. And then as always, I'm going to talk to it, and then I'm going to hit code for me as my little button at the bottom. So let's think about what I want to ask. I'm going to just be very specific to this last document. So making some data visualizations for, I think one of their goals is more corporate partnerships. So let's create a dashboard for that. I want to make a data visualization dashboard that gives me the opportunity to update data fields and turn that into a dashboard. I want to be able to have the following inputs: the current number of corporate partnerships, an input field for number of new partnerships in 2025. I want to have a place to list 3 corporate partners and the number of volunteer hours that each partner has provided year to date, and then be able to see a graph of that to see what relative percentages of each. I want a few bar charts and pie charts to represent this data. And I also have a new toolkit that new potential partners can download, and I want to track the number of downloads. Our goal is to have 100 by the end of the year, and I want to be able to see what percentage we're at towards that goal. That's a pretty complicated prompt, right? I'm telling it a lot of things. And so what it's going to do is it's going to start coding. So it's going to just start writing code. It'll write anywhere from 200 to 300 lines of code, and we'll see how it does as far as following those instructions, looking for a dashboard with some modifiable things. A lot of our work is visualizing data. We want to be able to take complex data and we want to be able to make decisions on it, and humans need data in certain formats to be able to process it. And so you have machine data, which is, Excel spreadsheets with no formatting. Computers can understand that, but humans can't. And so we need it in a format that is able for us to even understand what's going on inside of this data. So we'll let this run for, weird thing about this is it does not seem to run unless it's open in your browser. Like if I click away, it either stops or will go really slow. So I'll just give it another minute. We're at 250 lines of code so far. One drawback of this particular system that I'm demonstrating inside of Canva, as of right now, you don't get this code. I don't think, I can't copy it. And then once it creates the dashboard, I don't get to go in here and make edits to the code. I don't think I can even go back. Maybe I can go back. I haven't tried this and make adjustments like feedback. Wow, that was fast. All right, here's my dashboard, right? I can use this in a design and then publish this. And then as I change this, let's try. Can I change this? So I can't change it here. This is all very brand new to me. I can't publish this as a website. Let's try that. Test. Turn on test dashboard. Test dashboard. Try that at my canva.site. I've never tried this before, so this will be new to me. See if it's live or see how well it works. Wow, that's wild. And then I can change this and hit update. What changes? This is my goal. So that changes. If I change these to say 250 hours, update partners data, so that changes nicely and gives me a nice little overview. It kind of looks pretty when it moves. Update. Partnership growth, right? So what comes up for you? What would you see? What would you use this for? Love to hear in your chat. What sort of data visualization tools would be most useful for y'all? Now that you know how easy this is. This is one that I was like, whoa, this is big. Independent computer control. So existing, right? We've invented computers, and then humans had to drive the computers because there was no alternative. So a lot of people's jobs right now in the US is to just operate a computer, to move information from one system to another system. Take this information and pull it into this so it can be used to create a grant report, which we upload over here to the grant reporting website so that we can click this button to hit submit so we can get money, right? That's a lot of the job, right? Because it's a lot to do. It's a lot of kind of clicky work, right? You're just clicking on the computer, you're driving a computer. And that just changed, right? Computers can drive themselves. including like control your mouse. So the next demo I'm going to show you is the computer driving itself, where it's actually controlling the mouse on the screen. So let's take a look.
I'm Sam, and I'm one of the researchers here at Anthropic. Computer use is something that we felt was going to be important for a while now. And so today we're going to be talking about a very early version we have of computer use and walking through a representative example of the things we think it's going to be useful for. We're going to be going through a quick demo today. In this fictional demo, a customer, in this case the Ant Equipment Company, has come to us and asked us to fill out a vendor request form. The data I need to fill out this form is scattered in various places on my computer. What we're going to do is ask Claude to look at the spreadsheet, check if Ant Equipment is in there, and if not, move over to the CRM and try and find some more information there. Once it has this data, Claude's going to then fill out the form for us and hopefully transfer the information across to the vendor form. The first thing that's going to happen is Claude's going to start taking screenshots of my screen and quickly realizes that the Ant Equipment Company isn't actually in the spreadsheet. So the first thing it does is it swaps over to a CRM and searches for the company we're interested in. Luckily, we get a search match, and Claude then starts scrolling through the page, looking for all the information it needs to fill out this form. Claude then autonomously starts transferring the information across without me having to do anything, and goes through the steps and fills out all the information needed. And then submits the form. This example is representative of a lot of drudge work that people have to do. This is available in the API. We're excited for people to try it, and we should expect things to get a lot better over the coming months.
All right, so that is current technology that's available. Computers can now drive themselves. So curious also in the chat, like what comes up for you? Like you're like, oh my God, I would automate this immediately. I have to do this every week, or this is like especially a repeatable task. Curious where this shows up in your life, where you could automate this. And then always ask the question of like, okay, if you can reduce this type of work, tedious, move stuff on computer work, what do you want to spend more time doing? We need to be asking ourselves, like, where are we backfilling this? One option I always try to suggest is maybe we just work less. Maybe if humans aren't meant to do 40 hours of like thinking work per week. I know that I struggle to do like 40 hours of like brain intense work. That 40-hour work week is kind of built on like the factory model, where you can just like, you're doing something kind of like mind numbing the whole time. Maybe we work less. Maybe a more practical response is you spend more time doing what you love in the organization. Usually that's interacting with people. It's building relationships. It's getting to know your donors and your supporters and the people you're supporting. So getting some good stuff in the chat. Former project manager, spent months managing teams to get systems to talk to each other, right? So these tools are available. This one particular is not super user-friendly right now because you might need to do some programming to do it. But just know that like this is coming, and it's one of those tools that's just going to get easier and easier. In the future, you might just do what I did with the Canva thing, where you just talk to it and then show it a demo, and then it just goes off and does it.
So I'm Sam.
And then the last one, right? So the previous one was showing autonomous computer use, but it doesn't have to be restricted to just one computer. It can go out, these autonomous agents can go out into the internet and start doing stuff too. So let's take a look at that.
Hi, I'm Pete from Manus AI. For the past year, we've been quietly building what we believe is the next evolution in AI. And today, we're launching an early preview of Manus, the first general AI agent. This isn't just another chatbot or workflow. It's a truly autonomous agent that bridges the gap between conception and execution. While other AI stops at generating ideas, Manus delivers results. We see it as the next paradigm of human-machine collaboration, and potentially a glimpse into AGI. Now let me show you Manus in action across 3 completely different tasks. Let's start with an easy one. In this example, we'll ask Manus to help screen resumes. I've just sent Manus a zip file containing 10 resume documents. Since each Manus session has its own computer, it works like a human. First unzipping the file, then browsing through each resume page by page, and recording important information to documents. Manus works asynchronously in the cloud, which means you can close your laptop anytime, and Manus will notify you when everything is complete. Of course, you can also give Manus new instructions at any time. Here I've sent Manus 5 more resumes. After carefully reading all 15 resumes, Manus provides the checking suggestions along with candidate profiles and evaluation criteria as supporting materials. This is pretty good, but I prefer a spreadsheet. Let's have Manus create one. Manus has its own knowledge and memory, so it can teach Manus that the next time it handles a similar task, it will deliver a spreadsheet right away. In this example, we'll have Manus conduct some research. It needs to filter New York properties based on multiple criteria. For complex tasks, Manus first breaks them down and creates a to-do list. Manus begins by searching and carefully reading articles about the safest neighborhoods. Then Manus researches middle schools in New York. Next, Manus writes a Python program to calculate my budget. Based on my budget, Manus filters listings on real estate websites. Finally, combining all the information gathered, Manus writes a detailed report and compiles all the resources.
So that's what's here and coming. Like, what does this future look like with these autonomous agents that are given a goal and then able to create a plan and then execute their own plan? So I've seen some pretty wild kind of like demos that are not working perfectly, but it's things like, I'm going to give you $1,000 AI agent, and your goal is to turn it into $2,000. So first it researches like, how can it make money on the internet? And maybe it decides that it's going to make a YouTube channel. And then it realizes it needs to research a niche. And then it actually creates and signs up for YouTube. And then it creates a script and then uses an AI video generator to make the video and then post the video and then adds the description and starts making comments. Like, it's like, that's what's coming, is all this like kind of autonomous internet usage. So I don't know where this leads. I also, like, this is so kind of just like big to comprehend. It's hard to even wrap your head around like, what does this, like, what are the use cases for this? The one with the finding the real estate, like, think about all the discrete resource, different information sources it's taking from and creating different reports. Like that's, I don't know. Like, I see a lot of applications for this, but I'm still kind of like figuring out exactly what this is going to look like. And as I go through these demonstrations, like, something that becomes abundantly clear is we have fundamentally new human questions that we've just never had to think about before. Things that challenge like our values and our assumptions about our identity and other people's identities, what work means, what it's like going to be to build and live in a society. And unfortunately, there's no clear answers to this. Like, I'm not going to just say like, oh, like, sorry, like, this is the answer. Like, I don't have those answers. And because the technology is changing so fast, we're going to need to continually reflect and make sure that we're in alignment with our values and what's important to us. And so as I'm guiding nonprofits through this work, one of the things that we really start with is, what are those guiding values? What are those most important things that we're going to continually look back to say, like, does this use case, does it honor the privacy standards that we set for ourselves? Or does this make sure that we're disclosing in the way that we think is important, right? Because there's a lot of this is going to be kind of gray areas where you're going to have to make judgment calls. And so putting your flag in the sand a little bit about, this is what I believe and this is what I care about, is going to be important, because you're going to be faced with a lot of these new types of questions. So here's a few of them, right? Here are some new types of questions that kind of fall into this category. If AI helps make decisions, who's responsible for that, right? One of the things that's happening is like two examples here. If AI, and this is currently being used, AI is being used to try to predict recidivism rates for people coming out of jail, and changing sentences based on predicted recidivism rates. Like, does that take the responsibility out of the judge? Because they're like, well, the AI said to do it, right? Will this remove human accountability, right? Because, and these systems, they're kind of black box. We don't really know how they work exactly. Like, you put in inputs and some sort of statistical thing happens and you get an output without it being, the AI can't explain how it did it. And so you just get the output, and you can, if you've used AI, you know that you can very clearly shape the output based on how you ask the question. So if I ask a question, and I'm saying I was doing that document review that we did earlier, and I said, I'm looking for why this is great. It's going to tell me all the reasons it's great. And if I say, actually, I don't think there's, actually, let me rephrase. If I say, I think I'm doing a really good job here, can you give me feedback on this? It's going to agree with you and give you positive feedback. If you said the same question, I'm a little concerned not doing so good, can you give me feedback? It will then give you a totally different feedback just based on what it thinks your perception of it is. So these systems have bias built into them because they're trained on human language, which means they are biased and racist. And so I think this is like a new ethical question. Like, where does responsibility lie when we use these systems? Will people say like, oh, AI told me to do it, so I did it? Another one, will you make a digital twin, digital avatar, right? We don't even have the language for it yet. Will you make one of these for yourself when it becomes just trivial? What are the ethics of disclosing, sending that to a meeting? Maybe there's like an instant handoff kind of thing where like you're browsing your phone while your avatar is representing you. You're still there, but you're not engaged. It's doing the like, whatever. And then you get signaled that you need to like, swap right into like the human version because something came up that it can't handle. And so like it just like seamlessly swaps you out from the digital to the human version. How's that going to work? We're talking about making digital twins of yourself. What about making digital twins of somebody else? How does that work? Where does consent fall in? Like you're right, there's a million questions around this. Another question that is going to be relevant to kind of every organization and every nonprofit, if AI enables you to do more with less, right, which is kind of what I'm helping nonprofits do, how do you increase capacity? How do you reduce burnout? How do you amplify your positive impact that you're making by using these tools? Will you reduce staff because of it? Or will you expand your mission? Right? This technology is going to disrupt labor markets. Just like every new kind of paradigm shifting technology, it's going to shift how we do work, how we're employed, the relationship between employers and employees. And so these are the types of questions that we need to answer or start thinking about at least, and not expecting you to have answers to these. I don't have answers to these. What if your child, loved one, someone you know, legitimately falls in love with a chatbot? That's happening right now. People are having relationships with these, right? There are AI influencers on Instagram that don't exist, that have millions of followers. What's that all about? What are the ethics around that? So these are some new big questions. What are some practical questions? So some practical questions when you're thinking about thinking about AI in your organization. So here's just 10 questions. I'm just going to rip through them because we're near the end of time, and I'll open it up for a little bit of questions at the end. What's the process for testing a new tool look like? What's the approval process if you want to go from testing to deployment? What types of tasks and decisions should AI be allowed to be involved with? And are there areas where they should be restricted, right? And where's the blend between the two? Human in the loop, they check the answers, full versus full autonomy. When and how do you disclose when AI has been used and at what threshold, right? If it's just used to like double check something but nothing's changed, is that one thing? If it's used in this iterative loop, is that another thing? If it's full autonomous, is that another thing? And that applies to both internally and externally. How will you monitor how your AI is being used across organizations? So one big problem with these tools right now is there's not a lot of auditing available. You don't know what your employees are doing. What sort of training and support will be provided and or required? How will you deal with just the big topics of privacy and consent, right, across lots of different applications? How often are you going to review the policies, and who's going to be involved in that? And how is that going to be deployed? Really important, how do you ensure that AI use reflects and reinforces your values that you set up for yourself? And a really big topic too is a question is, how will you respond to staff that refuse to use any AI, right? If something that used to take a week, one employee using AI can do it in 45 minutes, and one employee refuses to do it with AI and they still take a week, like how do you reconcile that? And so I know that these are a lot of questions with not a lot of answers, and I feel like most people, you might have some big feelings. And so it may feel overwhelming. It may feel like an impossible task to like wrap your head around just like, what is AI and how do I do with it? And so, my goal is to help you all navigate through this. And my solution to a lot of this is especially rolling out at an organizational level, is the idea of having an AI champion, having people in your organization that have more flexibility to test, and they are helping guide the process and training other people. So AI champions actively are experimenting, they're exploring these benefits, they're navigating this new ethical landscape, they're assisting with the policy formation, they're guiding others, and they're helping to facilitate this adoption because I don't think you can't avoid it. Thanks, Amy.